septic systems or
Hooray.
on-site wastewater treatment systems. Anybody had issues with these or experience?
Right. All right.
Oh man. So let's do again, just like we did with wells. We'll just kind of go through real quick, kind of diagram of what they look like. So you have your house over here, poop line that goes out, main septic line goes into a tank, then usually two tanks, and then the line goes out of here, and then this goes out into your leach field. So this is where all the heavy stuff settles out, all the sludge, and then more of it goes over to this tank once it gets filled up, and then yet more sludge over here, and then the liquids go out into the leach field. So back in the day, in like older properties, the system is super simple because pee and poop flow downhill. So it goes out of the house, it goes into these tanks. This tank gets full, it goes into this one, and the liquid goes out, and gravity just feeds it out through. In this leach field back in the day, really was just a bunch of PVC pipes with just holes drilled in it. So then all the because by the time it gets to here, it's all liquid stuff. So everything just kind of percolates back down into the soil. And that's what I mentioned that replacement plan during water adjudication earlier. Like you actually get credit for the water that you put back on your property from your septic system. So there's some calculation they do, like, hey, you have 5 bedrooms, average family uses this much, pees this much, whatever. So you get credit for that water. So, but this is not really how systems work that much anymore because apparently poo-poo doesn't flow downhill anymore. So almost everything in Colorado now is what they call an engineered or a mounded system. So you'll see these, like beautiful, like $4 million houses. And then right outside of it, you have like this big mound of dirt. I mean, what the heck is that all about? So this is actually the septic system. So you'll have a tank underneath here, and then you have, because it has to be above, there's some rule about this can only be so far below grade, and it has to have so much dirt on top of it. But you'll have a tank underneath here, but then you have these other components, other pumps in here that then pump the stuff out into these multiple different leach fields.
An actual pump?
Yeah, there's an actual pump in the tank, and it pumps it, and there's actually like little diverter valves that decide when it's going to switch. So if you are at a newer property, like within the last 20 years, and you outside, there's somewhere out there, you'll see the lids for the septic tank. Hopefully you can find, a lot of times they're buried. But then somewhere close to that, sometimes up against the house, there'll be a gray box that has like a red light on top of it. So that's the control, the motherboard, if you will, that controls all these pumps in here. And it also controls the diverter valves that just switch back and forth between these different leach fields. I think from what I understand, it's just because the soil type isn't in a lot of areas. And I should say, this is all dependent on what the engineer says the system needs to be like when it's designed. So there's poo-poo engineers that design all this stuff. And they say, based on the soil core that we took, it's sandy, it's clay, whatever it is, here's what we have to do the system like. So I guess they've decided that soil isn't quite as sandy as what we thought it was. It's more granite and more clay. So you just need more surface area to spread the liquid out to. So that's why you have these more complicated systems now. And the other thing that they have now, which I kind of think is a good thing, because it used to be a huge mess if you had a basement to your house and you have a toilet in the basement, and now you have a line coming out. Like, well, how does it? You would just have to run this. You used to have to just run it so far out until what they call daylighted, until it got to where the ground kind of, was where that line was. But now what they do is they just run it to another pit in the ground, not a missile silo, but like it's probably about like 18 inches in diameter. It's just black pipe that goes way down to this level. And then there's a pipe that comes up, and there's a pump down here, and it just pumps everything up into the main line, into that one. So all of your basement toilety stuff goes into that line. And then the main level goes into the line right out of the house. So that's kind of how they work nowadays. It's just a lot more complicated than it used to be for some reason. But you'll have clients that will, especially if it's a nicer property, if it's like a multi-million-dollar property, they're thinking about landscaping and everything else. They have in their mind, like I've had people say, oh yeah, we're just going to get rid of that mound so we can level this out and do a fire pit or whatever. I'm like, whoa, you can't do that, because you don't want them to come back and say, hey, told us we could do this.
Get rid of the mound. Why couldn't they?
Yeah, you would think that.
I don't know.
So, right, yeah. So
Okay.
So not only are there engineered designs on how far this could be underground, how much dirt has to be on top, but you can't have too much dirt on top. Like you couldn't have the mound be like up here. Like this is too much dirt. This is just the right amount of dirt, apparently. So, like I said,
Why
everything,
can't they just go deeper and put it level?
because there's only so much depth below the ground that they can go.
I would.
That could be part of it too. Yeah.
Like, cause then you don't have to dig down, you just like,
I think part of it too is whenever it's a mounded system and your tank is higher, then just by default your leach lines are closer to the surface. Because what they'll do is they'll dig out, like so if they're putting in the leach field, right? Like they might dig down. And this might be like 6 feet, even though your lines are only going to be like 2 feet under the ground. They'll dig down 6 feet and replace this clay soil with sandy soil.
Okay.
So then it leaches out.
So the leach lines, how long are those typically? And do they cover the entire length of the leach field?
Typically, yeah. Yeah. So like on a newer system, you'll actually see like little, it looks like sprinkler lids, like sprinkler control box lids on each end of the leach field. And a lot of times the giveaway too is you'll see those on like white PVC pipes like sticking up above the ground. That's another thing. Like people will buy a property and they'll see like, 10 of these random foot tall pipes sticking up and they want to just cut them off. You're not supposed to because that's actually part of the leach field ventilation or something.
Okay.
So don't cut those off. Paint 'em-
They were
paint 'em
saying about the
brown.
Driveway, they wanted to expand in the driveway, but they couldn't because it's part of the leach field. But I did not know that there were actual lines in the
Yeah.
leach field.
So there are PVC lines underneath it. So that is a good caveat there. So you can drive like an ATV or bicycles or maybe a really light car over top of your leach field, but you can't take like heavy equipment over like a cement truck or a skid steer or something like that. It'll collapse the lines because they're not that far under the ground. So that's kind of the basics of the system. And then some common issues that come up. So I have this diagram up here is other than the electronic stuff just not working right, is if you have a leach field and you have all this really, really beautiful, tall, like Bermuda grass all growing out here, it looks awesome. Everything else is just dead around it. This means you probably have a busted leach field because too much water is leaching out into this certain area versus percolating down into the ground underneath the leach field. So some people are like, oh, that's cool. There's like this really nice patch of grass out there. Well, it's probably because you have poo water like seeping directly into this one spot. So you'll get really nice tall grass. So that's not good. Another common thing that you'll see, this is kind of more like just things to keep in mind from the buy side. Not that we're the experts on this, so obviously tell them to hire a company to come look at it. But if this is grade level right here, and this is kind of where the leach field ground level is, this isn't good whenever it's like really like dipped down. It means that probably it's like leached out so much that the soil underneath, because whenever they install these fields, and it's always been like this, they overdig it and they backfill it, but they compact it to like a certain level so that it doesn't sink right away, but they don't compact it so much that the water doesn't leach into it. So over time, what can happen is this dirt just compacts down and you end up with this big low spot, which also means that your leach field lines are likely closer to the top where they're bowed really bad. Typically, the engineer will just say, just backfill it with more dirt on top of it to kind of even it out. So it's a pretty easy fix, but just something, it's an easy fix, but it's still a few $1,000s to have somebody come in and do that. So it's just something to be on the lookout for. So that is the basics of how the septic system works. And as I mentioned, there's a lot more complexity now than what there used to be. Like systems back in the day, I mean, it was really just, you had the main line went out, it went into one tank. You had to get pumped out every couple of years, and then one line went out into the leach field, and that was it. So a lot more simple then, but they're a lot more, like I said, just more complicated now. So any questions on the basics of the leach field?
What's the best way to identify where the leach field is if there's not the white piping and stuff like that?
Yeah, so typically if you can find, if there's no white piping, then there's a really good chance that the tank covered lids are buried too.
Mhm.
But if you can find the lids, then you can typically kind of like stand on the tank and kind of look out and be like, oh, there's trees all over here, except for this one spot's clear cut. If it's out in the prairie, it's a little bit harder to figure out, but it's usually just kind of, if you're standing on the septic tank lid, wherever the most downhill place is typically. Okay, so when you go in the contract proper, there's really, in the contract, the first 29 paragraphs, there's really nothing that you have to put in here about the septic thing. But definitely put something in additional provisions, have a clause figured out that you use all the time that just states same thing. Like everybody knows that it's a on-site wastewater treatment system and that the seller will have it sucked out. Because a lot of times they'll say, we don't need to suck it out. Just say you'll have it sucked out, you'll have it inspected by a proper company, and that they will file all the paperwork to make sure that the transfer of title paperwork is complete with the county health department.
Isn't that mandatory?
It's actually not.
It's not? I thought with El Paso County, you had to have a pump.
I will tell you, I thought this for probably 10 years that it was. It was actually Rebecca at Land Title that They said, no, actually,
We
because
have
I
a
told her,
Because we asked, we were like, hey, we were asking about getting it, getting it drained
Mhm.
and inspected and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And then she talked to us like we were just absolutely ignorant. It was Jill from Black Forest. And she was so.
she'll make everybody feel like that when she wants to, yeah.
God,
No, Jill?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
she was
Joe
a-
McFerrin.
I love
Yeah,
it.
done a
yeah,
lot of
she was
deals with
very
her.
good with that. She's not like us. I don't have.
She hates new agents. I will say that.
Yeah.
Once you know what you're talking about, she's
Yeah.
wonderful to work
Well,
with.
even
She
once we
really
were
wanted
in the
to
deal.
through
she
out the
was
deal,
so
but start
friendly.
off.
She always starts out, yeah.
Sorry,
Um,
it's like-
so-
She was like, that's part of El Paso County, it's part of the law, it's a requirement, blah, 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 we're just like, well.
I thought it wasn't. The only way I found out is I called Rebecca and said, hey, we're gonna have to push closing because we don't have the paperwork back yet. She's like, I don't care if you have it. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought it was required. She's like, no, we don't keep track of that.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, that's kind of what's happening at it. Where,
I'm glad that's the case.
yeah, so interestingly enough,
Like Costco money.
we have 16, there's 14 on Murr and 2 on Slocum.
Mhm.
And basically John called some septic guy and the guy was like, do not file these with the county.
Right.
Because the county system is not even designed for any household that has more than one septic.
They wouldn't
Or
even
any
understand what to
property
do with it.
that-
Yeah.
there's no way to
Mhm.
format it. He was like, you will literally blow up their system.
Yeah.
He was like, I can come inspect them, I can do that stuff. And then we started looking and found out they weren't even permitted anyway.
To begin with,
And
yeah.
so we were like, we just kind of told the buyer, we're like, you want to just not pursue that?
Yeah.
That's when I called Rebecca and I was like, what do you require for these septic? She's
Yeah.
like, I don't require
I don't
anything."
really care,
And I was
yeah.
like, oh, fuck yeah. So what we ended up doing, it's changed like 100 times, but because it costs so much to do each one, to like inspect them, and some of his are like sunken, they need to be like brought up to
Yeah.
whatever. So we're like escrowing a bunch of money and then basically gonna write the check to the guy,
That's gonna do
to
the
the
work.
septic
Yeah.
unit, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
he'll do it. Because it was also like, John was like, well, you want me to pump fucking 16 of these things when they don't need to be pumped?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
no, how about I'll escrow it to you. I'd rather start getting paid because he's like, I just want more cash out of
Yeah.
you right
You can do
now.
what you want with it. Yeah.
And then like at some point when they need to get pumped, you can pull that money and pump them. But
So before we talk about contract, I guess a couple things maybe think about this, like things to be concerned about. So what determines the size of a septic system?
how many people pee and poop?
How big is
Ru-
the house?
Number of bedrooms, right? So that's another thing to be on the lookout for because you might find the original permit information or find out the septic information and it's for 3 bedrooms. Perfectly fine. It's a ranch home on 5 acres. It's beautiful. Well, since the house was built and that was put in, they finished the basement and now there's 6 bedrooms in the house. So now that septic isn't sized properly for the house. So that's going to be a big issue whenever
What
you try
do
to
you
do.
do when you go to sell a house like that? Cause we ran into that with the buyer and we just, thankfully, we talked with Jordan.
Mhm.
And she was like, look into such and such. And so they knew when they bought the house that it really was only permitted for 4 bedrooms, but they wanted to finish the basement.
Yeah.
And they're gonna use it as an office, but it's technically gonna be a bedroom.
And yeah,
So when it comes time for a resale, how do you list that? Like,
you just hope the other people don't
Don't
notice.
notice it?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And I don't feel like it's one of those like they have to do their due diligence. You're kind of giving them the information. If they put 2 and 2 together, that's their job to figure out. But if I'm listing that property, I'm gonna have that conversation with my client after they've signed and agreed to work with me that, hey, by the way, here's the situation. I recommend we get a bid of what it would cost to upgrade the septic system. So just so we have a number in our head, because a lot of buyers will come back, savvy buyers, and they'll be like, well, look, you don't have to upgrade it, but I want you to give me what reduced price by $20,000.
So that doesn't fall under a disclosure kind of thing.
I don't think it does because you're giving them all the well information or all the septic information. Like you'll give them, if you have paperwork from when it was first done.
But then.
And if they want to finish the basement later, that's kind of that's on them if they want to do it. Like I wouldn't go to them and be like, hey, by the way, if you want to finish your basement, the septic isn't going to work for you anymore. Like I certainly wouldn't do that because then you're not looking out for your client.
Right, yeah.
And
yeah.
that's
strict
fine.
is
Make
it?
it great. You can always just pump it more often and have it cleaned out more often,
Oh, as
so
far
it's
as
not
the
gonna kill
Just
the
read.
house, yeah,
Yeah.
it's more of a headache.
Yeah, and I think because that comes up, a lot of people are finishing their basement. They're not going to really add. They're adding 3 bedrooms, but they're not really adding 6 people to the house. or
Exactly,
whatever,
that's
right?
what we went over with.
Yeah, so I would personally be okay with that. depending on what my client's usage was gonna be. And I just have that conversation with them, so they're not caught off
You
guard.
guys have to not go to the bathroom as much.
Yes, you guys have to go pee outside and poop inside, yeah.
Yeah. Especially house full of boys, they all
Or like
outside.
bedroom versus office, so like what you state the rooms are for.
Yeah, you could, yeah, I mean, whenever you're finishing, I'm trying to think how that would work out, because regional building permitting is gonna say they're gonna have the plans for wherever the basement finish is. And then the health department could maybe get that info and tie it together at some point, but yeah. But that's what I would do. I would just have a conversation with my client, make sure they understand what's going on if I'm on the listing or the buy side. So that's bedrooms, something else that you mentioned. Oh, the inspection piece of it. So whenever you get it inspected, the guy's gonna go out there, whoever you use, so. I don't know, there's a lot of good food companies in town. I think most of them are pretty legit. Honeybee is a really good one. They're out in Eastern El Paso County, but they service El Paso and Teller County. So if you have the big holding tank, right, and there's some lids on it, or another tank, all they're gonna do is they're gonna find these lids, they're gonna pull the lids up. So I always tell my clients ahead of time, hey, you're gonna have to get this inspected. The seller's gonna, or the buyer's gonna do it. So I tell my sellers, it's gonna get inspected. And just to be a nice guy, why don't you guys go out there on a Saturday and dig up the lids? Because if the lids are buried, then the septic company usually charges about $200 to $400 more if they have to find the lids and dig them up. And the metal lids is a little bit easier because they have the little metal detectors, but now the lids are plastic, so they have a hard time finding them. So it's nice if the buyers can at least dig these up. It's kind of a show of good faith. But if not, just know that if the seller digs them up, the buyer's gonna pay more if they don't. So whenever they inspect this, all they're doing is they're just pulling these lids off. They're looking to see what the level is. And the reason that the county, I thought mandated this, but just made a big to do about it, because what was happening is people were buying septic systems that these concrete, it used to be concrete, now they're plastic. These concrete tanks had cracks in them and they would fail. So there's just a lot of situations where somebody bought a property, title transferred, and like 2 weeks later, the septic system failed. It was like $50,000 to fix it. And it's on like of course, it always happens. It's like, like a single wide trailer in Eastern El Paso County that people don't have 50 grand laying around to fix it. So then there was these issues about like people still using it and sewage everywhere. So that's why they said you got to get it inspected. So all they're going to do is they're just going to look inside the tank and do a visual inspection. The only time they'll say you have to pump it is if this poo level is so high that they can't see the tank very well. But back to the contract thing, I always write it in there that they have it sucked out, that the sellers have it sucked out.
So you're saying the requirement of the sellers is to have it inspected, but not necessarily pumped, or they don't even have to have it inspected?
So so if I'm on the listing side, I'm gonna tell my sellers, I'm gonna recommend that they do it ahead of time. Like before you even get under contract, because again, when we thought it was mandatory to have this done, it was just customary that the seller would have it done, and it was good for 6 months. The county health department paperwork was good for 6 months. So you could say, hey, you're thinking about selling the house. We know we're gonna do it this spring, have it inspected, get the paperwork done. Now you have the paperwork. Now, whenever you're going to sell the property, it's already done. You can just give the buyer the paperwork during due diligence and everybody's happy. Because it's not required now, there seems to be a little bit more pushback on that about like, well, hey, it's your inspection, it's your house now, you get the inspection done. I would say half the sellers are still cool with it because there's enough agents out there that still recommend that the sellers do it ahead of time.
Okay.
So, and in the contract, I put it in there that the seller does it as part of the contract. So even if they, and a lot of times they're like, oh, I already did it, cool, no big deal. Sometimes they haven't done it and they're like, okay, I agreed to do that. Or sometimes I push back on it. But so I always put that the seller will have it pumped, inspected by a certified company, all that verbiage, pumped, inspected, and that all applicable paperwork will be filed with the county health department.
Can you share your closets with us by chance?
Yeah, I'll give him a copy. He can shoot them out to you guys for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really, it's kind of the twofold. It's kind of covering your butt. Just say, hey, everybody understands this is on a septic system, like whatever side of the table you're on, right? Like everybody knows it's a septic system, and you were asking the seller to get it pumped, inspected, and then do all the paperwork. And the Goodwill companies in town, there's a list on the El Paso County Health Department, same thing with Teller County. There's a list of certified septic companies that are allowed to do the paperwork
On the
that
county
they'll accept. Yeah.
That little website too has it.
But then is it on the website too? Okay. So just make sure that whoever's doing it is one of those companies. They fill out all the paperwork. They send a copy to the health department. They send a copy to you. And a lot of times they'll send a copy straight to title if they knew who the title rep is. So the septic systems, honestly, it's easier in the transaction process. You just have to make sure everybody understands what it is and what it's sized for, things like that.
Don't learn about it with Jill.
Don't ask Jill questions about any of this stuff. That would be my recommendation.
Not when she's on the listing side, how about that?
So this is just a little something else to kind of keep in mind. this wasn't me, but it was an agent in Denver that I work with a lot. So this was up in Evergreen. The parcel of land was being sold. We were on the buy side of it. And the leach field actually went across the property line. It was an old system. And unbeknownst to me, the person I work with a lot told his client when they were looking at it, they said, hey, you know, this goes across the property line. He's like, it's not going to be a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no.
Well, then this property over here sold. It became a very big deal. And then this client that bought this house sued my friend for a lot of money. And then he had to pay to replace this whole beach field out here. So we all know, don't say things like definitive things, right? To people, but just if it looks like it's close to where the lot line is, just kind of be cognizant of that. Like you
So-
mentioned, you got
Your
it.
friend had told Joel's client, like,
With same.
hey, that's up to you.
Yeah.
This could come back to bite you in the end. Could
Yeah.
you have still been sued?
It probably would have been figured out in mediation, but he had it in an email. Hey, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Yeah. So there's kind of a couple lessons learned there, but the big thing for
Chad, how do I protect?
right for the septic thing is if you see a leach field-ish area and you think it's close to the lot line, just kind of verify exactly where it's at. So that'd be my recommendation. That's septic in a nutshell. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of details, but I think that's enough for
This style house is in town.
in town, right? Exactly. Any questions? Anything at all? Cool.
Any questions from the internet? You Zoomers?
Nope.
I typed it in there. Can you clarify, is it 1 acre for domestic? Is that what you said? And, or 7? I don't remember the numbers that you
Yeah, in
stated.
Colorado for new well permits, it's 2.5 acres.
Okay.
Yeah, so you will find existing parcels that certainly have wells on smaller than 2.5 acres, but for a new well permit to be issued in Colorado, it's 2.5 acres.
Oh, no. Is it where all household wells that are whatever in that category?
Mhm.
Are they ever allowed to water their grass? I don't know how else to say it, or is it always?
Inside the walls of the house. That's kind of like my easy definition for my lizard brain, yeah.
We typically see like a cistern start to be added so that they can trap the water and then they take that, they refilter it back and go on.
And you'll see older houses in downtown Colorado Springs that have like non-potable wells on site to water
Yeah.
the grass with and stuff, so.
Okay.
That's actually something that I tell my clients that, hey, that's just a cool bonus, but we don't care about it, we're not inspecting it, just kind of is what it is. If it works, you can water your grass with it. But it's really more Old North End is kind of where you see it at the most, so.
Well, and can't you get in trouble for catching water?
Actually, you're allowed to now.
Oh,
I think there's a limit, but you can like have a rain barrel underneath your gutter now. There was like a couple decades in Colorado, you couldn't do that, but now you can. That's all I understand at least. Yeah. All right. You have any questions? Call Kyle.
And I'll give you Chris's number.
Bye, friends.
yeah, Kyle, once you get his clauses, can you send those to me? I'm gonna add that to my offer that I wrote today.
Yeah.
Before I send it off to my client. for
Kyle,
signature.
email, you said not been approved by a real estate attorney.
That's okay, I don't care.